And welcome back. Well, it's been 5 years since the financial crisis of 2008, and our next guest wonders if enough has been done to repair the damage. Jay Richards is the New York Times best-selling author, and this is his new book, Infiltrated: How to Stop the Insiders and Activists Who Are Exploiting the Financial Crisis to Control Our Lives and Our Fortunes. Jay joins us now on The Morning Blend. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. You know, you gave us this list of kind of chronicled dates in 2008, and literally 5 years ago, September 12th, 2008, the president of the New York Federal Reserve Bank and Secretary of U.S. Treasury calls the heads of all the leading Wall Street banks to urge a meeting about the collapsing financial system. We know that this was all happening 5 years ago. Have we done enough to repair it?
I don't think we have, because of course we all kind of remember the drama of the Fed and the CEOs. In that meeting, the first one, they were supposed to somehow pool their resources and save a failing competitor, Lehman Brothers. Later, they were essentially compelled by Secretary Paulson to take money from the federal government. And the impression initially, for a lot of people, was that, well, this is a result of some really bad decisions and maybe just greed on Wall Street. The problem is that, you know, it's not like people got greedier in 2008 and decided to concentrate their greed in mortgages and mortgage-backed securities. Something had happened to completely change the mortgage market over the last 30 years, so that if you tried to get a loan 30 years ago, you needed a down payment of 20%, you needed to demonstrate your ability to repay it, have a high credit score, all those kind of obvious things that you'd need. Well, by 2007, people could get no income, or no job or assets loans, so-called ninja loans. What had happened to create all these risky loans in the system? What it was affordable housing policies imposed by both parties in Washington, D.C., designed to make housing affordable for lower income people. Unfortunately, the effect was to degrade the underwriting standards on loans, and so we created this massive market filled with a lot of risky loans.
So was it coddling? I mean, you know, we were trying to protect the American dream of home ownership and having our own land, but are we coddling people to the point of creating crisis?
Well, that's the dilemma. I mean, whenever the government subsidizes something, it encourages it. If you know, a mayor gives away $20,000 vouchers to his citizens to buy a car, the price of cars is going to go way up in that city, and the same thing with housing. You want the normal commercial virtues to be kicking in when you're borrowing money, and so the bank wants to know that when they lend the money, it's going to be repaid, and the borrower needs to be able to repay it. That's the normal free market for banking. But what happens when private banks are being pressured to give out some of their loans in this lower income, you know, subprime and risky category, and then turning around and buying those loans, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, these government-sponsored entities, had quotas imposed upon them by Congress, so that by 2000, Fannie had to buy 50% of its loans in this subprime category. I mean, this is exactly the wrong way to do things. It might have been well-meaning, but I just don't think that the folks that advocated these policies thought through the long-term consequences.
You know, Jay, I feel like I could talk to you for an hour. Unfortunately, we only have about a minute left, but I know you've got a list of things that people can do to help prevent another financial crisis and make the system better. Can you kind of go through a couple of those steps that people who are home listening right now can do to take action?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing to do is just exercise commercial virtue, obviously, and don't borrow more than you know you can repay. The credit by itself is not a bad thing, but we get ourselves overextended. As citizens, I think the first thing we've got to do is inform ourselves about what really caused the crisis and why the crisis hasn't been fixed in the intervening years. And that's why I wrote the book, so that people without a background in economics can get a hold of the crisis and what happened. And then we need to contact our representatives with informed responses and concerns, because there are a lot of members of Congress that know all about these problems, but they're not incentivized to do anything about it because they think that most of their constituents will disagree with them. If they hear from us and they hear sort of informed messages from their constituents, I think there's some hope that we'll actually get real housing policy reform.
All right, so get informed, also inform others of how you're feeling about it, and take a look at your book. I think you've got some great information in here. You have a doctorate of philosophy and theology, so I know you've got great angles and interesting takes on everything. So people can find your book at Barnes & Noble, other places like that, online?
Absolutely, Amazon, and you can also check out the website at infiltratedthebook.com.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here on The Morning Blend, Jay. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.